Hello and welcome. This is Carrie of Firefly Community. Today we'll be working through a yin yoga practice for the throat chakra, vishuddha, which literally translates to in-depth purification. It's the fifth out of the 7 chakras, and so now we've moved from the lower half through the heart, which is the intermediary, and now into the upper 3 chakras. There's a direct link between our 3rd chakra, which is located behind the navel, our solar plexus, which is associated with our ego, our place of power, our place of self, our sense of self, because our throat, our voice, is where we communicate and we express ourselves to others. So, as you can imagine, the throat chakra is associated with our ability to communicate, our ability to speak our truth and to share our voice, but it's also associated with understanding diversity and containing opposites. And the throat chakra not only refers to the throat, but also the neck, the esophagus, the trachea, the roof of the mouth, and so this whole area, including also the shoulders and our neck. So as we get started here, we'll be working a lot with the neck and shoulders, because as we carry a lot of stress in our shoulders and our neck, that gets all tight, that can really limit our ability to speak our truth, and also our breath. A few things that you will need for practice today are 2 pillows and a folded blanket is what we'll be using for props. So be sure that you have those nearby, and then we'll get started in a comfortable seated position. You can sit however is comfortable for you. If you're seated cross-legged, you can sit up on a pillow or a folded blanket. If you find that your knees are a lot higher than your hips, let your knees drop down, roll your shoulders back. Notice if you are holding tension in your shoulders, maybe roll your shoulders a few times to the back. Let your shoulders come up towards your ears and then roll back. Draw your shoulder blades towards each other. And close your eyes and start to take a few deep, full breaths. Start to let go of your day and arrive in the moment. And take a couple more breaths here. And then we'll take a neck stretch. So just let your right ear fall towards the right shoulder, and you can even use your right hand on your head to give just a little gentle pressure to create more stretch. And then you could also bring your left hand out beside you or behind your back, whatever gives you the best stretch. And you can play with the position of your chin, but keep your ear towards your shoulder as you breathe into that left side of your neck. And notice where you feel most of the tension. Is it more towards the front or the back or right along the side? Let's take a few more breaths on this side. Release your hand if you were using that. Bring your left hand back. Drop your chin to your chest and just pause there for a couple of breaths. And lift your chin back parallel to the floor. We'll take the other side. So drop your left ear towards your left shoulder. You can use your left hand to give a little extra press there down onto your head. Bring your right arm down beside you or behind you, whatever feels better for you or gives you the best stretch. And keep your ear towards your shoulder, but you can change the position of your chin. Maybe you turn it slightly up or slightly down. And find a place where you feel the best stretch and pause for another 3 breaths. And notice, does this side feel any different than the other side? Where do you feel this the most? More towards the front, more towards the back, right along the side? Can you drop the shoulder even further away on that right side? If you're using your hand, release your hand, bring the right hand back, let your chin fall towards your chest, and then lift your chin back parallel to the floor. Uncross your legs, stretch your legs out in front of you. And then we'll come to standing for just a few moments, so you can make your way up to standing on your mat. Purpose of this will be to give some traction for the back of your neck. So you can have your feet nice and wide, or you can have them about hip width apart, whatever feels more stable for you. And you can find a little micro bend or a deeper bend in your knees. Fold over your legs. Let your head hang, let your arms hang for a moment for dangling pose. And then for that traction for the back of your neck, you can bring your thumbs to just at the bottom of your skull and give a little bit of traction there. And if the backs of your legs are really tight, bend your knees a lot. We won't spend too long here. We don't want to end up being lightheaded or anything, but we'll take another 4 breaths with this tractioning of the neck. Another way to do this, if you're finding it difficult to hold your thumbs at the bottom of your skull, is you can interlace your hands and kind of cup the back of your head and traction that way. And then release your hands. And walk your fingertips out in front of you so that you can come to a pretty flat back here. And then just start to bend your knees, come all the way back down onto your mat. We'll come into a seated twist next. So a couple ways that you could have your legs for this pose. You could either take shoelace legs and stack your right knee on top of your left. As you can see in my body, that doesn't really work well for me. So the other alternative is to just bring your right leg in front and sit cross-legged. Press into your hands, shift your hips back so that you're nice and rooted in your sit bones. Sit up tall. Bring your right hand behind you to create length in your spine, and then twist over to the right. And you can use your left hand to the outside of the right thigh, but we're not using the hand to pull into the twist, but rather just to keep us in the twist once we're there. And relax your shoulders out of your ears. You can gaze one of 3 places, either directly to the side, over your right shoulder, or another alternative is to look back to the left. So whatever feels best in your body and your neck. And notice your breath here. Is it still able to be full even in the twist? And sometimes when we're carrying a lot of stress in our shoulders and our neck, it can actually feel more difficult to take those long, full breaths. So with each breath, can you lengthen and deepen? And keep your chin parallel to the floor no matter where you decided to gaze. And think about lifting from the top of your head. So your upper body stays kind of light. Meanwhile, you're nice and grounded and rooted in the lower body. Take 3 more deep breaths to the side. And then slowly unwind, come back through center. Uncross your legs, stretch your legs out in front of you. And we'll set up for the other side. So if you took those shoelace legs, your left knee will cross on top of the right knee and you're basically sitting between your feet. Or the cross-legged variation, just bring the left leg out in front. Press into your hands, lift your sit bones up, send them back, sit up nice and tall. Bring your left hand behind you to create length. And exhale, twist over to the left. Bring your right hand to the outside of that right thigh. And play with where it works best for you to have your gaze, whether it's straight off to the side, back over your left shoulder, or you can look back to the right. Then also notice if you have some resistance to the twist, and rather than cranking yourself into the pose using that right hand, think about using each exhale breath to find a little more twist in the torso while still staying heavy in both sit bones. So you're nice and rooted in the lower body, heavy in the pelvis, and light and lifted in the upper body. Like there's a string from the top of your head up to the ceiling, kind of keeping you lifted with little effort. And you can use that left hand behind you to help you stay more lifted as well. So you can use either fingertips or palm or your fist, that left hand to help you keep length. Take those nice long full breaths. And keep your chin parallel to the floor. Three more deep full breaths. Then slowly back out of the twist. Straighten your legs, find some movement in your feet, maybe tap your legs. And then come back to cross-legged for just a moment. We'll take a few rounds of seated cat-cow. So bring your hands onto your knees, and it doesn't matter which leg is crossed in front, whatever feels comfortable. And then on your inhale, press your chest forward, open up the throat, let your head come back as you draw your shoulder blades towards each other for cow pose. And then for seated cat pose, round through your upper back. You can press your hands into your knees as you bring your chin to your chest. So now we're compressing vishuddha, the throat chakra. Inhale, come back, open up. Also broaden across your chest. Exhale, cat. We'll take that one more time with breath. Inhale to seated cow pose. Exhale to seated cat. Let your shoulder blades come away from each other for cat pose. And come back through center. And come in to make your way to a tabletop. So come onto all fours, stack your shoulders over your wrists, hips over your knees. We're going to start to work a bit with the neck and shoulder with thread the needle. So as you inhale, reach your right arm up as far as what's comfortable for your shoulder. You can find some rotation in your wrist before we go into it. And on your next exhale, thread the needle. Bring your right arm underneath the left with your palm face up. Bring your shoulder and your ear to the mat. And if you find this is a lot for your neck, you could bring your folded blanket underneath your head. Get yourself nice and stable in this pose, so hips stay over your knees. You can either keep your left hand down on your mat, you can even bring your forearm down and frame your head with your arm, or you can bring your left arm behind your back in a half bind. If you find that whatever surface you're on is too much for your knees and it's hurting your knees, use your folded blanket underneath your knees to support you. And there's no need to hold on here or to engage. You want to just let your belly be soft. Notice how much of a stretch you're feeling in your shoulder and also in your neck. And then with this pose, I'll start to give you some mantras that you can use to focus your mind as you hold in the pose. This pose will be 4 minutes on each side, so it's a bit of time here. So for this pose, we will use, I hear and speak the whole truth. I hear and speak the whole truth. And I'll be quiet here for a bit as you focus either on that mantra or whatever else works for you to give your mind something to do as you hold. Just as a reference point, we're at the halfway point on this side. We have 1 more minute here. Three more breaths. And then bring your left hand back by your face. Press into your left hand. Bring your right arm back out and shake it out. We've been there for 4 minutes, so you might have to rotate that wrist a few times. Come back to your neutral position, your neutral tabletop. Inhale, lift your left arm up as far as what's comfortable for your shoulder. Find some rotation in your wrist on this side. And as you exhale, thread the needle. Bring your left arm underneath the right with your palm facing up, shoulder and ear, all the way to the mat. Set yourself up on the side with what you need. If this is too much of a stretch for your neck and you need some support, you can bring your folded blanket underneath your ear. You can keep your right hand or forearm down on your mat for support. Or if you want a little deeper stretch, you can bring the right arm behind your back. Keep your hips over your knees. Allow your low back to arch. Soften through the belly, through the heart. Notice how this side feels compared to the right side. Where do you feel this the most? We'll use the same mantra on this side as we used on the other side. So if you'd like to give your mind something to focus on as we're here in this pose, I hear and speak the whole truth. I hear and speak the whole truth. And for reference, we're halfway through this side. Last minute. And to come out, bring your right hand back by your face. Press into your right hand. Bring your left arm back. You can shake it out, roll out the wrist. And bring your knees out nice and wide. Bring your big toes to touch. Shift your hips back towards your heels for child's pose. Reach your arms forward. We're not here for long. This is a transition pose. So we'll take about 3 or 4 breaths here in child's pose. And as you stretch your arms forward, press into your palms, activate the arms, and then let your arms relax. And press into your hands, come back up to hands and knees, and then sit to the side, grab your blanket, your folded blanket, And we'll make our way down onto our backs with the folded blanket underneath your head. So as you lay back down onto your back, position the blanket so that it's just at the top of the shoulders and your head is resting on it. Tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. Straighten the legs. Grab the long edges of your mat and kind of hold on to the edges of your mat to pin your shoulders. Pin your shoulder blades down. And then release your mat. Release the arms. Let yourself just lie here on your back. This won't be a full hold. We're here for 1 minute just to let everything relax and also just come back to that nice neutral position. And flip your palms up. Close your eyes. Think about lengthening the back of your neck. We'll take 2 more breaths just like this. And then to set up for broken wing pose, bring your left arm straight up by your ear just so that your arm is out of your way. Bend your right knee, roll over onto your left side, bend your right elbow, bring your hand back behind your back so that your palm faces out. Roll your shoulder blade down your back and then roll back onto your back. Straighten the legs back out and you can rest that left arm wherever is comfortable for you. We'll be here in broken wing pose for 4 minutes on each side. So we want to make sure that your shoulder blade is comfortable, and if it didn't fully kind of slide down your back and integrate, you might be feeling too much pressure on your shoulder blade. So you might have to roll back onto your back and really work on rolling that shoulder blade down and back before you roll back onto your back. And then a few ways that you can adjust this pose is to either bring your hand up higher on your back if you need a little more, or you can bring your hand lower or a little further out from underneath you if it's too much. So there's a few things going on here, and if you're finding that the blanket is not helping you, you can move that out of your way. But the blanket is there to help lengthen the back of your neck. So if you were finding that that was helping, you can keep it there. And then you should also be feeling a stretch in your arm, whether you feel it more in the upper arm or the lower arm, just depends on your body. And then also maybe a bit for the front of your shoulders. So we're working open the front of the shoulder as we try to roll the head of the shoulder back. You can either just let your legs be out straight here, or if you would like, you can take butterfly legs and bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees fall open. That will also give you a stretch in the outer hips and the inner leg if you want a little more in this pose. We are just about at the halfway point on this side. I'll give you another mantra if you would like it to focus your mind in this pose. And for this, we will use my voice is necessary. My voice is necessary. And I'll allow for some silence here so you can focus on that. But just one other note, if your hand falls asleep, you can come out for a moment and wiggle the fingers around, get that fresh blood flow back, and then make your way back in. Just over 1 minute left. My voice is necessary. Once you come out, bring the left arm back up by your ears so that you can roll yourself onto your left side. Bring your right arm out from underneath you. Find some movement in your wrist and your arm. Lay back down onto your back. We'll set it for the other side. So bring your right arm straight up by your ear so that your arm is out of your way. Bend your left knee, plant your foot, roll over to the right. Bend your left elbow, bring your hand back behind you so that your palm faces out. Roll your shoulder blade down your back so it's nice and integrated, and then roll onto your hand so you end up laying on your hand with the palm of your hand into your mat. Let's start timing us. And take any adjustments that you need. You can either have the legs out straight, or if you did on the other side and would like to continue with the butterfly legs, you can bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees fall open. You can rest that right arm wherever it feels comfortable, whether it's down by your side or out to the side. And then play with the position of your left hand to make sure you're getting a nice stretch on this side. You might have to move your hand up higher if you want a little more, or down lower, or a little bit out from underneath you if you need less. And compare your sides. Notice where on this side do you feel the stretch the most. It might be in the lower arm, it might be in the upper arm, it might be in the front of your shoulder, the pec. We'll come back to that same mantra for this pose. My voice is necessary. My voice is necessary. We're halfway through this side. 2 more minutes here. If your hand does fall asleep, you can come out early and get some fresh blood flow back into your hand and then come back when you're ready. One more minute. to come out, roll yourself back over onto your right side, just enough to bring that left arm out from underneath you. Find some movement in your wrist, your arm. And then we'll just rest here on our backs in either pentacle pose, which is with the arms and the legs out wide, or shavasana with your arms down by your sides, the shoulder blades still tucked underneath you. That fresh blood flow back into your hand. And then if you don't have your pillow right by your side, you might have to just roll yourself over to the side or rock the length of your spine a couple times to come up to grab your pillow. If you do happen to have a yoga block, you can certainly use your block instead for this. Lay back down onto your back. Plant your feet about hip width apart. And for supported bridge pose, press into your feet. Lift your hips up off of the mat. Bring your pillow underneath your sacrum. So you might have to fold your pillow in half. And then bring your hips down onto your pillow. Same thing here. We want to make sure that the shoulder blades are nice and tucked underneath. So you might shift your weight side to side. Bring your shoulder blades underneath you. Fingertips point up towards the sky for a moment. Press into your elbows to lift your shoulders up. Really get them underneath you so that you feel really supported. And then arms can come back down by your side. We're here for 4 minutes. And you can either keep your knees bent with your feet planted for the duration of this pose, or you can straighten your legs and have just your heels down. So either way, either position of the legs, this pose is a back bend, and then you're also lengthening the back of your neck and finding a slight tuck of your chin, even though you have space between your chin and your chest. The other thing that you're getting if you're straightening your legs is a stretch for the hip flexors, so the front of the hips. And let everything relax. And if you find that the pillow isn't supporting you enough, maybe you need to fold it more than once. Just get it to a place where it feels like you can really let yourself relax into your prop. I'll give you another mantra here to focus on in this pose. For this one, we'll use, I communicate my clear intentions. I communicate my clear intentions. Keep your gaze straight up towards the ceiling. You could also close your eyes. Halfway through this pose, we have 2 more minutes here. And you can certainly move between having the legs out straight and having your feet planted, especially if as you have the legs out straight, it starts to be too much for your back. When the feet are planted, have them about hip width apart and feet parallel to each other. Last minute here. If you do have your legs out straight still, bend your knees and plant your feet. And then allow your knees to fall in towards your chest. And you might have to adjust your pillow a little bit underneath you. But we're going from here into legs up the wall pose using the pillow to support the pose rather than a wall. So you'll just send your legs straight up and adjust your pillow as you need to so that it's gravity that's holding your legs up in the air rather than just a lot of effort. And you might have to work on getting those shoulder blades back underneath you again if you're not feeling as supported as you were before. You can either stick with having the blanket underneath your head, or if you prefer, you can move the blanket out from underneath you. And I like to just wiggle the toes around and my feet around a little bit as we first are into this pose, but then eventually find some stillness. This is an inversion, so we're getting all of the benefits of being inverted for the circulatory and lymphatic system. But also here, we're still creating length in the back of the neck, and we're getting a little gentle pressure on the thyroid. So the thyroid could also be considered as part of this whole area of the throat chakra. So this pose is also great for our metabolism. If in this pose, though, your feet fall asleep, you can bend your knees and come back to supported bridge pose. And get that fresh blood flow back, and then if you would like, you can come back in. This also might feel like a nice opening and stretch for the behind the knees. But if it's too much, you can always bend the knees a little bit. We have one more minute here. Three more breaths. And slowly bend your knees. Bring your feet back down onto the floor. Press into your feet. Lift your hips off of your pillow. Move the pillow off to the side. Lower your back all the way back down to the mat. We'll come into constructive rest pose. Bring your feet wide to the edges of your mat. Let your knees fall to each other. We'll be here for a minute to come back to a nice neutral position of the spine after being and the back bend, and then the inversion. Hug your knees into your chest. Take a little rock side to side. Massage your low back. And then you can either roll to one side and press yourself up, or rock the length of your spine a few times to make your way back up to seated. And we will set up for reclined hero's pose. And I'll give you a couple different options for this pose. But first, just come forward onto all fours. Bring your knees together, separate your feet apart, and then sit in between your feet. And if this doesn't work for your body to sit all the way between your feet and have your sit bones all the way down on the floor, you could bring your pillow underneath you. Or another option is to sit in seiza pose, which is to bring your feet together and sit on your heels. If that's still not accessible, if you have any discomfort in your knees, you can come forward onto your hands, tuck your blanket, your folded blanket behind your knees, and then sit back. You could also use a pillow between your heels and your sit bones. Those of you who maybe are in this position, setting up for reclined hero's pose with your sit bones all the way down in between your feet, can start to lean back on your hands or your forearms, or maybe all the way down on your back if that works in your body. And option to open up your throat. So you can look up or down the bridge of your nose, but with your head back a bit to open your throat. And as you settle in here, the other thing I want to address is the ankles. If your ankles are really uncomfortable here, that's another thing that you could use the folded blanket for. You could bring the folded blanket just underneath your ankles. For most of us, the feet pointing straight back is going to be the most comfortable position. But sometimes I have people who like to point their feet a little bit out to the sides. But set yourself up with whatever works in your body. If you do have your throat open and that gets to be uncomfortable for your neck, look forward in front of you. So we've got a lot going on in this pose. It is a back bend. It's also a big stretch for the front of your thighs. And then if you have your head back, you're also getting opening up your throat and your throat chakra. So I will give you another mantra if you would like to focus on during this pose. I take responsibility for my voice. I take responsibility for my voice. And those of you who might have been able to come down pretty far but not all the way onto your back, you could also use your pillows underneath your forearms or underneath your back. I have bad knees, so it doesn't work well for me to be that far back for that long. So I use my pillows between my heels and my hips to give a little relief for the knees, not as much compression in the knees. I take responsibility for my voice. We'll take 3 more breaths here. Depending on how far back you are, you might have to press into your elbows, forearms, your hands. Make your way all the way up. Come onto your hands. Move any props that you might have been using out from underneath you. And then lower all the way down onto your stomach so that we can stretch the legs back behind us after having the knees bent in that position for so long. Bring one hand to stack on top of the other for crocodile pose. Rest your forehead down onto your hands. Stretch your legs back, point your toes, let your legs relax into the mat. Take 1 minute here. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders. Press yourself back through a tabletop. And then we'll set up for our final Shavasana, but I'll give you a couple different options. So you can use a folded blanket underneath your head again if you liked that, or you could use your blanket to cover yourself if you prefer. Another thing that you could do here for the first part of our last pose is use your pillows to set yourself up for a version of supported fish. And you'll likely have to fold your pillow at least once. For that variation, if you would like to take a supported fish, you lay back onto your folded pillow so that it's underneath your shoulders and your head. And you can allow your head to come back. If your pillow's not quite long enough, you could use a second pillow underneath your head. And then arms down by your sides. Press into your elbows to kind of lift your heart up. Bring your shoulder blades towards each other and then relax your shoulders down onto your pillow. Palms face up. You can either have the legs out straight or you can take butterfly legs again. The soles of your feet together, knees out wide. That's an option. If you would like to just transition directly to Shavasana, you can just lay down onto your back. And maybe you bring your pillows underneath your knees. That might be a nice option. And blanket either underneath your head or over your body if you're feeling cold. And as you settle in here, I will allow for some moments of quiet, and I'll give you one more affirmation. And this time we'll use creativity flows through me. So when we use our voice, we are also sharing our creativity with the world. So creativity flows through me. And if you are in that supported fish variation and you would like to take the last 4 or 5 breaths in Shavasana, you can just roll off of your pillow, move it off to the side, or roll back onto your back. Rest your arms down by your sides, flip your palms up. And take 5 more breaths. With your last couple of breaths, notice if you're still holding any tension in your shoulders. Can you let that melt away as you exhale this last nice big full breath? And start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Roll your ankles and your wrists. Take a big full body stretch. Reach your arms up overhead, your legs out straight. Let your back arch. Bend your knees, roll to either side into a fetal position as we transition out of our practice into the rest of the day or evening. Use your free hand to press yourself up. Come back to seated, right where we started. Take a couple of shoulder rolls back. Let the shoulders come up by the ears and then roll them back. Then leave your shoulders down your back, shoulders out of your ears. Bring your palms together, thumbs in towards your heart. Close your eyes. Exhale all of your breath. Big inhale through your nose. Open mouth exhale. And as you go back out into your day, into your night, remember that your voice is necessary and that your throat chakra is your ability to communicate who you are with the world, to express yourself. And we all need each individual to express their true self. Thank you for practicing with me. Namaste.